Hello there, everybody. Thank you for joining me once again. Today we're going to be doing something quite different. Quick backstory. Last Friday, I'm sitting on my couch, just minding my own business, doing nothing, and my back started hurting so bad. I've never experienced anything like that. I think I would have felt better about the situation had I been lifting a heavy water bottle or lifting weights or doing some sort of activity, but the fact that it just happened while I was just sitting there, that really bothers me. So the next few days were not fun at all. Standing was definitely better than sitting, yet not without its own share of problems. So I just tried to take it easy, tried to recover, and here I am the following Friday feeling much better, but definitely not 100%, and I'm definitely not ready to slap on a 12-pound Area Pro 2 bass over my shoulders and learn a song and do a video. But I do want to put out a video, and this video was inspired by a comment in one of my recent videos where Spawn MC was describing how Faster Than Light is not in tune, let's say, and how he learned the song in F, but it's actually in E, and now he had to relearn it. I've been there, and I sympathize. Back in the early 80s, they were notorious for speeding up the tape. Maybe they were doing that before the early 80s, but as somebody who learned to play their instrument while playing along to audio cassette tapes, this drove me bananas. And because it was done to the masters, even when they do these, remastered editions and this and that, that tuning is set. So this song, Faster Than Light, is a particularly egregious example of this technique they were doing. I've never heard anybody really talk about this as a technique, as an audio engineering technique. I wish they would, because I would love to hear from the original engineers about, how this started. Basically, I think they did it for two reasons. A, when you speed up the tape, the song becomes a bit faster. And B, it sort of creates this tightening up effect when the instruments go up just a little bit in pitch when you compare it to the non-pitched version. So that's a relative thing. So that second reason, might be a bit dubious, but I think it was as simple as somebody probably accidentally raised the pitch, and then somebody said, hey, that actually sounds really good, let's use it. Whatever the reason is, again, it drives me crazy. So what can we do about it? Well, back in the day, you couldn't do anything about it. You would just tune your instrument. There you go. G string, D string, A string, E string. Let's tune them all up so that we can play along to the track and it doesn't drive us crazy. So nowadays, we have more tools to address this. I don't know of a tool that you just feed a song into it and it says, okay, you're 40 cents sharp on this track, let's bring it down. If anyone out there knows of a tool like that, please let me know. In this video, I'm going to describe two ways in which we can do this. One of them is a very low buck way that you really don't even need a computer to do. And the second way involves having some relatively expensive software. But I think it'd be fun just to take a look at that. So let's start. Let's bring this back here to about the 12-second mark. And I'm going to increase the volume. And then we're going to compare that against the original. Let's just see if we can hear the difference. And now. Hopefully you can hear that. I can definitely hear it. The original track is much higher in pitch. So again, what can we do about that? Well, we need to figure out roughly how many cents we need to detune this track. And one way to do that, this is the low buck way. Let me close this. We're going to bring out a software synth. This is set to the most simple patch. It's just a sine wave, basically. This is what it sounds like. So a really pure tone, no vibrato, no, two oscillators at once creating an amazing chorus effect. No, this is just... All right. So if we play that tuned basically to 0, I know it says -1, but just close enough, and then we play along to the track, listen to how bad it sounds. So this would be the equivalent of me trying to play along with a perfectly tuned bass to a cassette or a CD of the original Faster Than Light. Horrible. Let's try it in F. That sounds even worse. And believe it or not, this song is closer to F than it is to E. But I think there's something going on in our human brains where we can tolerate flatness more than we can tolerate sharpness. Okay, so what we're going to do now is continue with our low buck method. So let's tune this, let's just say around 20. That would be like a typical sped up 80s track. Let's see if it sounds any better. Better, but still not great. Let's take it to an extreme. Let's say, okay, well that didn't work, so what about this? Again, nah. It sounds worse. So let's go back down. How about something like that? 48 cents. That is sounding pretty good. By the way, the distance between two notes, let's say E and F, that's 100 cents. So that's what we're talking about when we're saying, hey, we're going to increase this software synth here by 48 cents. That's how much space there is in between the notes. So 50 would be right in the middle between E and F. And that's pretty much where this track sits. And that's very unusual. That's a lot of sharpness. So now that we know that it's around this sharp, we can do something about it. But before we actually do something about it, we're going to jump ahead to method 2 using some high-tech tools. So what we need to do first is isolate one of the instruments. Of course, I'm going to isolate the bass. And we're going to use this software, iZotope Music Rebalance. It's basically like a stem separator. It's not going to separate exact instruments from one another or voices from one another. It's going to extract things into these 4 broad categories: vocal, bass, percussion, other. Of course, it doesn't do a great job. This isn't one of those super fancy spectral imaging things or spectral layers, I should say, kind of a thing. I know there's online tools out there you can pay for that do a better job. Maybe those use AI, maybe they don't. I don't know. But we're just going to use the tools we have. And so this is going to be like a cooking show because this takes a while, and I've already done that. And that is this. So this is what bass alone sounds like, extracted via iZotope's Music Rebalancer. And now what we're going to do is employ one of our other high-tech tools. We're going to right-click this and do Melodyne Edit. So let's kind of fast forward over here because I want to get to a bunch of the low notes. And what we're looking at here is the notes and what Melodyne thinks they are. So it thinks this should be an F. So here are all our low E's that are actually registering as an F. Now, if you've been looking somewhere in the middle over here, you will see that it is telling us how many cents flat or sharp we are. So since it thinks we're an F, it's telling us, oh, you're 40 cents away from an F. Here you're 47 cents away from an F, flat. Now you're 51 cents flat. Now you're 45 cents flat. 44, 50. So here's what I'm trying to illustrate. Nothing is right on the money. These are instruments, analog instruments played by human beings. Even the synths, especially of this era, are susceptible to drift, and they're not perfectly in tune either. Voices are certainly not perfectly in tune. And that's what makes it sound wonderful. Everybody is just playing like an orchestra would. Everybody's doing their best to reach this relative tonal center, and that's the best we can do. Do not obsess about an exact number of cents by which you need to tune a track. All right, so I hope I've made my point there. Let's exit Melodyne. I've already tried this, and again, like the cooking show, I've already decided that 51 cents is how many cents I'm going to pitch the original track down to. And this is how we do it. We go here, which is the elastic audio section, and we click polyphonic. And then we right click and go to elastic properties. We pitch this down. Like I said, I'm going to use 51. We close that. And then we right click and commit. I just leave everything as is because those settings work. And when you do that, it's going to duplicate the track with the changes, and then it's going to hide the original track and disable it. So if we now take our software synth, okay, let's mute the bass, let's unmute that. If we now take our software synth and bring that down as close to 0, there we go, 0, and play along, it should sound much better. Let's see if we can play along. Now, here's another thing I want to illustrate. If we add in an instrument like a piano, for example, it's going to sound even better than a sine wave, because a sine wave is very deceptive. Essentially, it's perfect, and you're playing perfect against imperfect, so it's never going to sound amazing. Now, a piano, I could talk for hours about a piano, but it is just a wonderful instrument, and the way they're tuned is an art. And that's probably why a piano usually sounds pretty damn good. Now, the latency is kind of weird with the recording setup I'm doing here, but I'll try to play piano over this so that you can hear that, hey, this sounds pretty good now. Right? That sounds pretty good. Better than the sine wave, because the sine wave is almost making you look bad because it is so perfect. Okay, we're going to try one more experiment. We're going to duplicate this track, the sine wave track, and then we are going to attempt to figure out how many cents sharp using a perfect sine wave we need to be before we start noticing that something isn't quite right. So what I'm going to do is play both of them at the same time while increasing the tuning on another. So there at 5, we're getting a lot of pulsing. At 2, we can hear it, but it's very slow. Same there with the 1 difference. You can hear it, but it's really slow. This doesn't mean anything, though, in the real world, because it's never going to be just 2 sine waves bouncing off one another. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that in a real world environment, a pop rock scenario, you wouldn't begin to notice a difference till you reached about 8 cents or so. So if it was off by more than that, I think that's when you would be able to tell something's going on here. Okay, so with that experiment out of the way, let's delete that track and let's have some additional fun. Let's take what is now our original track, this one, the pitch corrected original that is, and let's separate out the bass out of that. Again, like a cooking show, I've already done that because that operation takes a while. And here we are. So this is the newly isolated bass at the correct pitch. And again, we're going to go into Melodyne and poke around in there. Let's see, I think it was right about here. No, it's more like over here. Okay, so now we have a bunch of E's. They're no longer being tagged as F's. E. Now that says it's +8. This one's -1. That one's +14. This one's bang on the money. 0 cents. +2, +1. So please do not get these tools and be tempted to make everything right at 0. That does not sound good. Do not get me started. The bullshit that is out there nowadays with these perfectly tuned, shitty ass vocals drives me crazy. I will end my rant right there. So there you have it. We've talked about 80s tracks and how some of them are sped up. They used to just speed that damn tape up and mess it up for all of us musicians trying to learn these songs. I hope that was a fun little dive into some audio engineering stuff. Hope to see you next week. Until then, hope you have a great weekend. Catch you later. Bye-bye.